Excellent. Good evening, everyone. My name is Kwame Afray. I'm the chair of the Land Use Committee for Community Board 17. The date is December 4th. Time is 7:35, and I call this meeting to order. Um, as a proffer, our community advocates for the responsible planning and development within the district. We provide input on zoning changes, business improvement districts, variances, special permits, and other land use matters. And according to the New York City Charter, we strive for the balance and preservation of our community's character with the need of thoughtful development that benefits all residents. Our responsibilities include landmarks, historic preservation, housing issues, and budget matters related to the HPD, the DOB, and the DCP. To update us from last month, sorry that I missed you in the um, general board meeting. I had a emergency situation at work, but we'll run through a couple of things citywide that's been happening in the last 30 days. We have the One LIC neighborhood plan in Long Island City. It's a plan for the city to advance, which is expected to deliver about 15,000 housing units, including a significant number of affordable homes. Those percentages haven't been released yet, but the second I know, we'll share. The plan also includes investment in transit access, open spaces, and community infrastructure, which is why I red flagged that. We had a lot of conversations. I want to see how this particular project is going to address community infrastructure and if it's something that we could also address in our neighborhood when projects of that magnitude also come. Obviously, the city charter amendments for housing approval, the ones that were voted on, I believe have gone live. We have the Creed Board redevelopment in Queens, which is a large scale redevelopment for a psychiatric center, and the campus continues to progress. It's also going to be a mix of housing and community use with open spaces improvements. And we know about the Metropolitan Park by City Field, a lot of activity at City Field. To advance, they're at their environmental review stage. They're also taking in community engagement, and that's also going to be a project which envisions recreational spaces, entertainment, and commercial development with also improved the public access. But adjacent to that, we know that the downstate licensing has been going on for a while. And the latest update as of December, which I think happened actually on Monday, is that the gaming facilities have recommended 3 proposals for advancement for the final review stage. We know one of them being the Resorts World Casino in Queens, the Hard Rock Metropolitan Park, which was previously mentioned at City Field, and the Bally's in the Bronx. These would be, if awarded, the first full-scale regional casinos in our area that offer gaming tables and integrated resort amenities similar to Las Vegas. All 3 proposals have been transmitted to the New York State Gaming Commission and will conduct final review and evaluations. It's expected that up to 3 licenses could be issued by the end of 2025. The commission is also not required to issue any licenses, so there are no minimum requirements. So all 3 proposals may not actually go through. The downstate program was authorized in 2022. A lot of competing bids withdrew in early 2025 due to the massive fee that's required to keep it going. And it's at the final stages. How it impacts us. We already know how economic bombs like this impact our neighborhoods, being in the surrounding areas. We experienced it with the Barclays. We may experience it in Coney Island, however that develops. And now we have to experience it potentially to the east of us at Resorts World. I did get notice from a committee member about a legislative update. It was called Intro to 948-2-2024. It's relation to short-term rentals for 1 and 2 family homes. It's a bill that's going to increase the permitted number of boarders, roomers, and lodgers to 4 individuals, excluding children under the age of 18, in 1 and 2 family homes when the permanent occupant has properly registered for the short-term rental program. The provisions under this new bill, which was reviewed on 11/20, occupants may host guests remotely without being physically present, establish access requirements for guests while protecting the private spaces, the bedrooms, offices of the permanent occupant, clarifies the common household and unlocked doors requirement as applied in short-term rentals and other units. The bill was originally introduced last year in June. It was reviewed on the 20th and is currently on hold with the Committee for Housing at the City Council's office. As it advances and as amendments are made on the bill, I'll be monitoring it and giving you updates as that moves forward. Lastly, on Monday, we did get notice about a development coming to 1550 New York Avenue. This is, I believe, between Farragut Road and Glenwood. The project is supposed to bring 23 units, 5 of which are supposed to be affordable through the UAP program, for the Universal Affordability Preference Program. And it is falling under the 485 tax exemption program, which we have to do some research on. The floor is supposed to build about 1,500 square feet or 15,000 square feet, excuse me. And publicly, the property is owned by an LLC, BS 1550 New York Avenue. The general contract has already been given to Ace Maintenance. The architect is Building and Design Architecture, and the law firm attached is the law offices of Daniel Rabinpour. Construction is slated to start the first quarter 2026, which is extremely early, and anticipated to finish in 2028. We will be reaching out to see if we can have a meeting, being that it was such short notice, hopefully for our January meeting, for them to come and actually give us a presentation of what they intend to bring to the neighborhood, so we could have maybe not input because it appears to be an as of right build, but some insight of what's to come at 1550. All right. That ultimately concludes my report. I'll open the floor for questions. Are there any questions? Please indicate it by raising your hand or inside of the chat box. Thank you. Ariana, you're acknowledged.
For 1550, do we know how many stories tall it is?
5 stories.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
No problem. Ms. Martinez?
Oh, I was going to ask the same question.
Yeah.
Okay.
They gave like a generic, I have it shared. I don't think it's proprietary information. Naushin, could you share that with the committee? I don't think there's not much on there, but they did give a mild, very generic illustration, if you can. Thank you. Ms. Bennett?
Yes, good evening. There seems to be some activity on side of Bedford, and I believe it's Erasmus. There used to be a gas station there, now I see it's all boarded up. Do you have any information on that?
No, Bedford and Erasmus,
Yeah, right there, across from the school.
across from the school?
Yeah, on our side, the east side.
Yeah. No, I didn't hear anything about that.
Because it's boarded up, I believe Greenville's going up.
You're saying up the block from all the storage facilities, right there on the corner, adjacent from the school?
It's the next block up from Church Avenue,
Yeah.
going south.
All right. I'll do a trace over there and drive over there and see if I see anything. I'll let you know.
Not anymore. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. In the chat. 1 second. Thank you, Ms. Bakruddin. So there's no progress or it's not advancing. Well, I know it didn't vote. I know that the
It was
city
voted
members-
down.
Yeah,
was
I know they
voted
voted
down.
it down, but I
Yeah.
didn't know if it died there.
It
That
died
was the,
because the borough president is not supporting it either. So all the
Very
folks that could have progressed it have
Stepped
basically
away.
killed it. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you. That's the last I heard, was that the community voted it down. Thank you for the update.
My pleasure.
All right. Any other questions before we hand the floor over to our presenters for the evening? If so, you could always email me at landuse at cb17.org, landuse at cb17.org. If you have any questions, and most of you have my number, feel free to text me. And at this time, I'm going to hand the floor over to the GCP to speak on the study concerning our neighborhood. Who will be the lead?
Hello. I think I guess I'll toss it over to Paris. I saw you just unmuted, so.
Hi. My name is Paris Strotter. I'm the director of the Planning and Land Use Division here at City Council. I think is anyone from the council members' offices on?
I'm
Great.
Councilmember Lewis.
Great. Okay, so we've got representation from Councilmember Lewis's office. How about Councilmember Joseph? Okay. And then we have, as you said, the Department of City Planning, who's going to be leading the planning study. But we're working together as a team. And I just wanted to start by saying that at least at City Council, we heard a lot of concerns, and we had expressed them to the Department of City Planning. And partly related to the City of Yes negotiation, the Department of City Planning agreed to undertake a planning study in this area, given the challenges and concerns. So we're here to talk to you about that today. We actually have a presentation where the Planning and Land Use team at City Council will start, but then the Department of City Planning will also be part of that presentation. I want to turn it over to Alex in case he has anything to say here at the top. So I'll do that now.
Great. Thank you, Paris. Good evening, everyone. Want to thank you for having us at your community board meeting. My name is Alex Summer. I'm the director of the Brooklyn office at the Department of City Planning, joined by a number of folks from our office here on the call tonight. But importantly, I want to point out David Weisglass, who is the liaison to Community District 17, Community Board 17, and will be helping through the planning presentation. I know we've been talking about doing something to the zoning and fixing the zoning that hasn't been changed since 1961, and recognize the significant amount of as-of-right development, particularly in the northwest portion of the community district. We've met with the community board a number of times over the past few years to talk about zoning strategies. So we'll be talking about what does a planning process look like to ensure that we reach the most number of people to understand concerns in the neighborhood. Thank you, Chair, for bringing up some of the past rezonings in other neighborhoods. I think those are good things to look at as examples. And so we're here to talk with you over the coming months and think through how to address these longstanding issues that you've been raising. So thank you again for having us this evening.
Before Tim brings up the presentation, Daniel, did you want to say anything on behalf of the council member?
Sure, happy to chime in. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. Daniel Heredia, I am the communications and legislative liaison for Councilmember Farrah Lewis. Pleasure to be here in front of you all as usual. I basically wanted to just brief remarks from Councilmember Lewis. We are very excited to be partnering on this initiative with DCP and our land use lawyers. They are always very helpful in helping us work through land use issues in our district. The main thing that we want to highlight is that this is a progress of many years of discussion, collaboration, trying to fight to make sure that our district, compared to all of the other community districts in Brooklyn that have gotten their own down zonings or contextual zonings under the Bloomberg and Blasio eras, East Flatbush has been neglected. We want to make sure that we are getting our own right sizing of the zoning that we are owed. So this is the product of many years of discussion. We've had an opportunity to take a stab at right sizing a lot of the blocks in our community that have been overdeveloped. We're talking about Brooklyn Avenue, we're talking New York Avenue, we're talking many areas that are pretty much unrecognizable because of the as of right development. We already know that there was a report from the Association of Neighborhood and Housing Development that CB17 has done their fair share in developing as of right development, more so than many other areas in Brooklyn. So this is why we really wanted to convene this study and work with our partners to make sure that we can fix what has been caused by as of right high R6 development in this area, and work with the community to find a better plan to right size this board. So that's basically the remarks from Councilmember Lewis I wanted to share, and we look forward to working with you all.
All right. Thanks so much. And just wanted to say good evening, everybody. My name is Tim Anderson. I'm with the City Council's Planning and Land Use team. So I work with Paris and also with the council members and my colleagues at the Department of City Planning. So if we're all set, I'm going to share my screen. We have a brief presentation, and we'll run through it, and then we can have some discussion right afterwards. So 1 second. Okay, can everyone see that?
Yes, we can.
Okay,
Yes, we
wonderful.
can.
Oops, thank you. All right. So we ran through our introductions, and I think Daniel gave a little bit of the remarks from Councilmember Lewis. So we'll just jump right in. I'm going to tag team a bit with Department of City Planning on some of these slides. So I'll toss it over to David where appropriate. But go to the next slide. Like something's missing there. It's weird. Oh, 1 second. I don't know why that's. Also, apologies, my 3-year-old's in the background, so you may hear some. She may chime in every now and then, but here we go. Here we go. All right, sorry about that. So one of the reasons why we, why do we plan? We want to work with communities to develop inclusive plans and studies that reflect a range of perspectives. So, a lot of what we've heard from the community board has been a lot of the development that's gone on along the western side of the district. And, one of the things we wanted to highlight is it's not just about, we wanted to make sure that, when we consider like a neighborhood plan, it's not simply just updating the zoning, but we also consider a lot of the other concerns that have been raised, like potentially lack of open space, improvements to infrastructure, in quality of life, and making sure that there's affordable housing and preservation, economic and workforce development. So we want to make sure we're considering all of these alongside any potential zoning updates. I think this dives a little bit more into what is involved in neighborhood plans. I don't know if David, did you want to take over from here, and I'll jump back in afterwards?
Yeah, just very, very shortly. I can just I could talk about this a little bit. So we'll talk a little bit more about the neighborhood planning process, but basically this goes a little bit over about like what a neighborhood plan actually is. What could be produced within such kind of document. We talk obviously a lot about zoning and land use, but we're certainly not limited there. We'll look at housing. We'd like to look at the public realm, the interaction between the public and the private realm, economic development opportunities where appropriate. And then there are a lot of different tools that can be utilized. Obviously, land use actions, if we're talking about the zoning, there's definitely in there, but could include capital investments or other public realm improvements, new programs. And we like to leave this flexible through coordination with the community board and with other stakeholders. We kind of find out what is really being asked for by the neighborhood and the best ways to achieve those things. So yeah, I think that kind of just summarizes that very quickly.
Yeah. All right. Thanks so much. So one of the reasons why we're here, back in 2015, the Brooklyn Borough President conducted a technical study of the community board. We know that the board sent a letter to the Department of City Planning requesting a zoning study back in 2018. We heard that there was a lot of involvement with WXY and George Janes to do a study in the community board and issue a recommendation, issue a report. And, of course, in the last couple of years, between 2022 and 2024, there's been continued engagement with the consultants, the borough president, the council members, and the Department of City Planning. And as Paris mentioned at the top, the Department of City Planning included a zoning study for Community Board 17 as a commitment in the points of agreement for the City of Yes housing opportunity last year. So I think this also, I may have to toss to the DCP, but we're going to go a little bit through the neighborhood planning process, which starts with community engagement, which is what we're doing here today, and we'll continue to do, community plan and strategies, and then implementation of a plan. So I think these are your slides, right, David?
Sure. I think DCP, we speak to these a little bit. So there's multiple phases that we kind of like to go through within our neighborhood planning process, each kind of serving a different goal at a different step of the process. Where we are right now, we're really at the beginning. We're in the organized phase. We're organizing a steering committee. We're trying to meet, obviously, with the community board, which we are tonight. Planning, larger public meetings in the future as well, to organize, help people all understand kind of the background of what got us here, why we're here, and why we're here right now, specifically, which, we've gone over a little bit. We'll move on to the learn phase, which is where we really like to engage the community stakeholders in a lot of different forms. We find different forms of engaging with folks can help us learn a lot of different things and help reach the broadest number of people and really get something that's representative of the community. And we really gather a lot of great insight. We can move on to the create phase. That's where we really start drafting some things, again, with coordination with the steering committee and the rest of the larger community. We begin to craft kind of a draft of what something could look like based on what we've learned in the prior two phases from the community about the needs of the community, the desires of the neighborhood, and we begin to put the draft. We are able to publish that, and then we're refining. Right, we look at kind of what we put together, and then the neighborhood and the community members and stakeholders involved can really look and see, okay, what does this get right? What have we learned? And where are there opportunities for improvement? And through that collaborative process, then we get to certification. And then what we begin is really the public review process. We said, here's our document. And then a much larger public review process begins. This is in addition to the previous engagement in just crafting the material. So obviously throughout the ULURP process, basically, as many of you are aware, it goes to the community board to, continue to fine tune and issue their recommendations. Same to the borough president. Then the city planning commission will vote, and the city council will vote as well. And of course, they have their opportunity to modify as they see fit with hearings and engagement from folks. And finally, we have a neighborhood plan, which can include a lot of the materials that we talked about previously. But we're very happy that there's a number of phases here that we have the opportunity to engage a broad number of folks in a lot of different formats to make sure that we get the best information we can to craft something that works. Oh, and maybe I'll speak to this a little bit. So I kind of I went over most of this in the last slide, but I guess I'll give some folks some opportunity to read, and this adds a little bit more context to some of the stages I was talking about previously. So again, we're just at the beginning here. We're organizing. We have a lot to learn, about the way that the community operates, and the way that best gather information and have folks involved in a really productive way. And then we'll move on to learning. That's when you identify our issues. We can look at the strengths and the opportunities for improvement in different areas. Moving on to the create phase, again, develop our draft zoning. And we also get to kind of map how we got there, refine it over time, finalize it, and then that can lead through the ULURP process into a neighborhood plan. So I'll leave it there for now.
Yep. Oh, thanks so much. Okay. So, one of the key things that, we want to focus on is community engagement. And a lot of that has to do with process. One second. Sorry about that. A lot of that has to do with, it's a larger part of the larger timeline that includes ULURP and environmental review. And we want to make sure that we're creating realistic expectations about timeline and capacity for those involved. Of course, including, leaving the room for creating, planning process that'll work best for the community. So we want to make sure that we have enough time between all of these stages to kind of gather more information from stakeholders, from the council members, from the community board to kind of understand that we're going in the correct direction. And that can, there are different strategies to get there. So, there are certainly focus groups are one part of that. Community visioning workshops where we have like very high level discussions with folks regarding needs that the community has and what desired changes they'd like to see. Design charrettes, surveys, neighborhood walks, and workshops, which will really give folks a way to understand, what it's like to, walk through the neighborhood and kind of point out directly to to stakeholders and others who are involved in the process, like what changes, what the concerns are, and where there are opportunities for change. So a lot of what we heard so far, kind of going back, to the letter that CP17 submitted, a lot of what we've heard so far is, we see that there's a need to kind of prevent the displacement of existing homeowners, and I would also argue, existing tenants as well, make new development more predictable, and with building heights that reflect neighborhood context. And a lot of folks have concerns about a lot of the new developments being out of context, and then of course, ensuring that if any new affordable development that occurs contains affordable housing. So, as we mentioned before, a lot of those strategies, that we can utilize are rezoning or contextual rezoning, with height limits where appropriate, redirect growth to certain corridors and transit hubs to reduce development pressure on side streets. One of the tools we have for affordable housing is mandatory inclusionary housing, which would ensure that, new development includes permanently income restricted and rent stabilized housing, and to make sure that housing is truly affordable for Flatbush and East Flatbush. And then homeowner help, HPD and the city have a lot of, different tools to assist homeowners. So, we want to make sure that was a strategy we could explore in this situation, in this instance as well, to, kind of identify what those strategies are to make sure that long-term residents have more opportunities. So the proposed kickoff timeline, as I mentioned, this was, this planning study was part of the City of Yes, which passed last year as a commitment from the City of Yes. So today we're meeting with you all for a briefing. I didn't update this, but I know I said the week of December 8th, but we actually are planning a public kickoff event a week from today at PS 181. And, I can give a little bit more details about that. We have a flyer that we're circulating right now, but it'll be an opportunity for the public to come and, comment on a lot of what we've discussed tonight and kind of like where this neighborhood plan will head. And then early next year, DCP will take over the public engagement strategy and timeline, and we'll make sure that it's being, that we're working together with our city and local stakeholders to kind of make sure that this plan is on its way. So,
and just I wanted to say a little bit more about that before we go into Q&A. We really worked hard to, launch this before the end of the year, both to kind of honor that commitment and just continue to make progress on this. Really want to thank Department of City Planning for their partnership on that, and of course the council members' offices just pulling things together. We understand that it's not a lot of lead time before next week's event, but it's really just a kickoff, and really to start getting out the word that this is happening. There's going to be a lot more events where people will be able to give their input at this early stage. So it's not like this is like the main kickoff event. There's going to be kind of other kickoff events in the future. This is really just the beginning.
yeah, thank you. And yeah, I think at this point we can jump into discussion. So I'll stop sharing my screen, but if anyone wants to jump back to any of the slides, please feel free to direct me back to any of them.
No problem. Just to keep this organized, anybody who has a question, please start by raising your hand. Any other question? If you're nonverbal, please just put it in the chat and we'll get it addressed. So anybody with a question, just indicate. We'll answer in the order of hands being raised. And let's get started. Hazel Martinez, the floor is yours.
Yes, good evening. I am quite concerned about what you're proposing here, simply because most of what you're proposing was done previously, and then there was no response from DCP about it. So what is going to be different here? There's almost no community to actually engage. We have nothing but buildings all over the place. We are overdeveloped, and they're not affordable either. And so it's not even what is it that you're really after here? Because I feel that people will probably be, if they trust this, they'll be losing whatever little people we have left.
Yeah, well, I can start to take that, and Alex or anyone from DCP, and of course from the council members' offices, if you want to also respond. Yeah, we recognize that there's been a lot of work and advocacy in this area by the community, and we recognize that that there's been a lack of maybe response to that advocacy. Look, we can't control what happened in the past. I think what's important is to look forward. And what we're saying now is that there's a commitment from City Council, there's a commitment from Department of City Planning to work with the community to figure out how to address the issues here. And those issues are many. There's been, development that's been out of context. There's been rapid change in the community. But there's also really a need for truly affordable housing, not the kind of affordable housing that was at really high rents from the old 421A program, but actual affordable housing that's part of the mandatory inclusionary housing program. That'll really truly be affordable to this community. So I understand the frustration, but I hope people can kind of look forward. And the hope is that we can actually make some real progress, even though there's been a lack of progress to date.
Thank you. Joan Bakudin.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for this presentation. I do have a question specifically. I know this is a result of the Vital Brooklyn, but we recently had ballot initiatives passed that impact my my adoption of this particular engagement plan. So my question is, how is this impacted by the recent ballot initiatives that kind of skew responsibility and the ULURP process context?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll take this one as well, but obviously, Department of City Planning should weigh in if there's a different perspective on anything I say. In Community Board 17, the way that the ballot proposals could affect this effort is fairly straightforward. So if with this rezoning through the ULURP process, there is an additional step that is going to be at the end of the process. City Council still has a vote. We could still make changes to the application. However, if the appeals board wants to take up an appeal of that application, they could. And the appeals board is the mayor, the board president, and the speaker of the city council.
The speaker, indeed.
So one of those three individuals could choose to appeal. Here we're working very collaboratively with Department of City Planning. So I assume that it wouldn't be the mayor or it wouldn't be the speaker of the city council, but in theory, the borough president could appeal, and then that body would take a look at what the rezoning is, and potentially could make changes to the rezoning. So that's the main change, or that's the only change from the ballot initiatives that would affect this effort.
Okay.
And,
Thank
and
you.
I'll add to that too, that I think I hear the concerns around meaningful engagement, and I think we've been talking about this for quite some time. Recognize we've been working with a lot of folks that are on the call tonight over many years. What I want to re-highlight what both Tim and David had highlighted in the presentation, which is there's not just a reliance on the ULURP process for engagement. We're talking about actually a series of town halls or workshops or charrettes or recommendations from the public on how to better, coffee and tea chats, however that works. Our goal is to really come up with a land use plan that makes sense and responds to some of the concerns that Community Board 17 and other stakeholders have been raising. And so I want to highlight that, it's not just we certify a rezoning and then you have your allocated ULURP time to comment on something. We're actually talking about a large kind of component before we even get to that point, and help shape the plan so that there's consensus around some of these goals.
Thank you. My primary concern is that the work that was already done would be taken as rote and their engagement not reinitiated. But it sounds like there's a plan for that. Just making sure that we're continually engaged in the process is appreciated.
Thank you. Allison Martinez.
Good evening, everyone. I actually have a couple of questions. First, regarding the steering committee, I wanted to know what roles there were on it, who is on it, and who selects the people who are on the steering committee, and when is that happening, or has it already occurred?
Yeah, and Daniel or anyone else from council members' offices can add. We're still in the process of forming a steering committee. It's an important part of this overall process because as you're doing community engagement, there needs to be decisions made at a very high level, and the council member and of course Department of City Planning doesn't want to just make those decisions alone. So you use that kind of smaller body of stakeholders to help make that decision process, because there's going to be a lot of input coming from the community. You need to kind of refine and make some decisions about direction and how the study will go forward. So that's kind of the role of the steering committee, is to help the council member in that process. In terms of
what roles are on it, not the role of it in its entirety, but
okay. I understood. Yeah, in terms of who the folks are and what their individual roles will be in the process, that's all still being determined. If there's interest, then I would encourage folks to reach out to their council members' offices, because we're still putting together the steering committee.
So the only person who would be responsible for putting people on the steering committee is the council member's office.
I mean, we're working collaboratively with
plural.
planning,
but and
go ahead.
Yes, sorry, Paris. I'll just speak on this. So both what we've been told, and this is basically, this process is something that DCP does everywhere. We are in collaboration with Councilmember Rita Joseph on this. So meaning that we both have to agree on the composition of the steering committee. So if you reach out to myself, or if you reach out to I believe it's Brian on her team, who's their director of constituent services, who's heading it up over there. Either of us is probably going to be. We'll look at it and make sure. I don't think there's a limit to how many folks can be on. It can't be like a number of people, but at least for our office, we are going to be trying to get as many people who live within the confines of the rezoning. And I don't know if Paris or Tim, you shared on your presentation the actual boundaries of what we're looking at, but we're going to be looking for folks who are physically in that park. Even though that this is a project that is in CB17, it is a portion of CB17. So we want to really emphasize the influence of the folks who've been most affected by the out of character and unaffordable development in the board, who live in the areas. So that's pretty much my piece there, if that helps.
Well, it would be more helpful to me, I guess, to know what the criteria is for steering committee membership. And you still would have to have a certain number because it's a voting. I would assume they have voting rights. So
I don't think it's a Robert Rules type voting. I think it's really going to be consensus. So, we don't have, at least in our office, I'm not sure what Rita Joseph's appointees are, what their criteria is, but for us, if folks are interested and they live and they are willing to actually show up to all of the meetings that we schedule, then we can have that conversation and get you on.
okay. My next question is, the first time that we attempted to do this, there was the issue of the transition between one administration into a new one, which paused everything based on the lack of an idea of what the priorities of the new administration were. I can assume that the new administration is probably in alignment on this, but have you had conversations with the transition team or anything like that to get a sense of whether or not their current priorities align with giving this project its due attention and I guess energy to move it forward?
I can answer for council side. We will be having those conversations with the new speakers transition folks very soon. Those conversations haven't happened yet. And then I don't, DCP, if you want to talk about anything, but the other thing I would say too is that was one of the most important parts of making sure we kind of kicked things off before the end of the year, was so that actually we're already starting. So we're already in progress with this effort.
And I'll just add, no, we haven't had conversations with any of the incoming administration on the department side.
No.
Okay. Last two questions I have are, is there going to be an RFP for CB17 to have its own rep, who may have because CB17 in and of itself may have different priorities or considerations versus what the council or the administration, the mayor's administration, or anyone else at the table wants going forward?
I'll answer that, Paris. We have asked on the steering committee, and actually Tim, who's the land use lawyer who helps us with a lot of CB17 related things, we have asked for at least 4 members of CB17 to be on the steering committee. Like members, like that might be Kwame, that might be the chair, we'll see. That might be a few folks who are active on the board, members of the board to be, and that's a minimum. But again, I'll reiterate that while the board should have,
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a consultant that's for CB17, not a steering committee member like that. I'm talking about its own consultant who's versed in land use and neighborhood planning that could represent this board's interests directly. That's why I'm asking if there's going to be an RFP for that or anything else.
I mean, that's not typical as part of this process. So just so I understand what you're asking, a consultant that would represent the community board or the community?
Both.
Yes, well, typically the community board represents the community.
I get it. There's a difference.
Yeah.
Community board is an official, and you guys are an official entity, whereas the community is, not.
Right.
But it would be the community board mainly. I assume.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that you guys could do. As part of this process, you know, the city would not hire a consultant to represent a particular entity in this process.
Okay. Last question, I just want to know whether or not we're looking at like the vast amount of changes that have already occurred in the community since 2 of these attempts, and now we have the IBX, and I'm wondering if you're thinking through that layer of massive development change that is most likely to happen in the commercial corridor as a result of, you know, transit oriented development and the impacts of that. Like how will this work versus like the state's intentions?
So I can jump in on that one and talk through that. So no, absolutely. The IBX, right, is seems like it's moving forward, and we've been coordinating with the MTA on initial thoughts and their environmental review process. It 100% will be part of the considerations as we go through like a planning process here, and like any other infrastructure or transportation project, it'll be part of the considerations as part of the existing and planned future conditions of the neighborhood. So 100% that'll be part of the planning process.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ariana?
Hi, yeah, I have a quick question just for my own clarification. The end intention here is some sort of zoning or change, right? Not just the report to determine if that's the direction we want to go in, but that is kind of understood that that's what the end goal is. Or am I understanding that correctly?
I think I can begin to speak on this. Alex or Paris, feel free to join as well. Yeah. So again, the neighborhood plan can encompass a lot of things. It's not necessarily only limited to zoning and land use issues. As we spoke about earlier, there could be programs, economic development things. Capital investments, so on. We leave that flexible to kind of figure out with the community throughout the engagement process. But if it does come to pass that we have this plan that has active changes that the community, in consultation with everybody else involved and the rest of the stakeholders thinks, what, there are land use changes that are going to be helpful here and necessary, then that becomes an official plan through the certification process and ULURP. So in one of the previous slides, you may have seen there's a lot of engagement kind of throughout, but we kind of divvied it up between pre-certification and post-certification. Once something begins the formal ULURP process, the formal public review process, and if it is approved by the City Planning Commission, the City Council, and the Mayor, then yes, those changes will take place. What we want to see throughout this process is exactly what those changes would be. In what realms they'll be. And if it does include land use changes and zoning changes, then absolutely that'll go through the ULURP process.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Viglianti?
Oh, I'm sorry. I took my hand. I didn't meant to take my hand down. Sorry. I don't have any questions at the moment.
Okay. Review the chat. Last call for anybody with questions. Anybody like to double back? I don't see any questions in the chat.
I had my hand up, I think.
Oh, okay.
Go for it. 2 questions. The first is, does this include the eastern part of the district over by Rockaway Parkway and Remsen Avenue?
I can take a stab at that. So I mean, we've been working with the community board for a number of years on this. We've heard most pressing issues have been the R7 and R6 districts in the western portion of the neighborhood, where that's been the most kind of intense as of right development. Right. And so that's where I think the initial focus would be. As David mentioned, if there are areas that we should be looking at that are, you want to highlight during the like public engagement process, it's good to have that for the record and for us to understand that. But as of now, we're trying to focus on the area that has the most kind of pressure that we've heard from the community board in the past.
Okay, I asked because there has been a proposed project along the subway line, which is above ground at that point, for a good 3 block stretch, um, which hasn't really been talked about for a little while now, a few years now, but that was put out there. So I just wanted to check on that. My second question is, and maybe the answer's already been given, but who's deciding on the metrics? By which I mean, um, when we say affordable, who's deciding what level of affordability is defined as because the AMI is a federal measure which doesn't necessarily apply to the area of AMI or this region, right? As opposed to this neighborhood or this district. Um, who's deciding if we need more? I'm not thinking particularly of these examples, but schools versus hospitals versus, and are we taking into account the aging or de-aging of the community in that respect? Who's deciding what the metrics are going to be as we decide what the priorities are going to be?
Great question. I'll do it in the opposite order. So the last question about infrastructure planning and all of that, there's kind of a two-pronged approach. The first is identifying the priorities of stakeholders through the planning process, meaning we talk to folks, the community board, the committee, the public, the steering committee, and the public. What do you see as the long-term needs of the neighborhood, both to meet past issues, ongoing issues, as well as future issues? And at that time, we'll hear all sorts of things. We need safer streets. We need better lighting. We need more schools, etc. And through the public engagement process, the goal is to identify and prioritize them and come up with a list of recommendations and priorities. And that's kind of like a consensus driven process. Parallel to that, if we identify zoning changes, there is a requirement, not just a need, but a requirement to go through an environmental review process. And in that environmental review process, the state and the city have mandates on what needs to be analyzed. So if we're, altogether projecting a certain number of new apartments, for example, we have to understand how many new school children will be generated by all those apartments. And we will do estimates with the School Construction Authority and the Department of Education to see how many school seat needs, what the needs for the school seats are. So we do that through a number of categories. We look at traffic and transportation, public transit, schools, sewers. We do the whole thing to understand and make sure that our sister capital agencies are aware of the potential for changes ongoing in the neighborhood. And those are kind of the two-pronged process. On affordability, there's a number of different tools that the city can use when we undertake a neighborhood plan. We've talked a little bit about mandatory inclusionary housing. That is a requirement that new development basically include permanent rent stabilized affordable housing in all the new developments. We have certain requirements around that, like they have to be of a certain size. So, a 1 or 2 family home can't require that, but a 6, 7, 8 story building would require that. And those are the types of decisions that would be made. But we also have other tools with our sister agency, HPD, Housing Preservation and Development, and look at both existing affordable housing preservation, bringing more of the existing housing stock into an affordable housing program. We look at publicly controlled sites to build deeply affordable housing as much as, we try and target 100% affordable housing where we can on public sites. And then we also have what HPD calls term sheets. And that's when a property owner says, hey, you know what, I'm interested in doing more affordable housing. What kind of subsidies do I have access to? And that usually has HPD subsidies. And so through this planning process, we've heard things in the past like, I really wish the city would focus on senior affordable housing specifically, and we look at tools to do that. Or we say, you know what, I really want to focus on middle income housing because that's where we're losing the most of our middle income population. Or we really, it's important for us to focus on the lowest of lowest incomes, $20,000, $30,000 a year. And that's what we want to focus on. There's going to be trade-offs for all of those different scenarios. You're going to, if you want lots of affordable housing, that means you need a lot of new housing to be built. If your focus is on, different targets in different areas, we have to come up and discuss the trade-offs, and we'll do that with you. And you develop this community report, which outlines the priorities and the pros and cons that you see. I don't know if others want to add to that, but that hopefully answers your question.
Okay, I'm not sure if these are new hands. Oh, it's okay. You can go. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I think my question is a little bit more basic as to who's gonna decide what metrics. I'm repeating myself. Who's deciding what defines middle income versus lowest income versus affordable? Because there are people who would say affordable isn't affordable. It's not workforce affordable. There are people who would say that certain people's idea of affordable is not necessarily what the neighborhood's idea of affordable would be, right? And we can start talking about. I guess the easiest thing to do would be to use something we all reference in terms of AMI, right? And percentage of AMI, the area median income, which is the general New York City metropolitan region, which, also contains Suffolk. So that's not necessarily going to be what's affordable in Suffolk isn't going to be affordable in our neighborhood, right? And so I'm being more specific about who's deciding what the percentages of, say, AMI or whatever, who's deciding what the numbers are going to be that define affordable.
Got it. Yeah. So that's right. So we do use the term area median income, AMI, which is basically a number that is set by the federal government. That doesn't mean that we're saying
wedded to it.
Excuse me?
It doesn't mean that we're wedded to it, right?
Correct. What it means is it highlights how much subsidy is needed based on a certain income. And so if you're saying, like, if we do the analysis and we say, here's the local area median incomes, that helps you understand then which AMIs you want to target in affordable housing programs. And then we can explain the MIH. So I'm getting a little bit of feedback. Sorry. Hold on one sec.
Is it possible, and not to cut you off, Alex, is it possible to say, I think folks can get a hand of the process?
Yeah,
like,
I don't want to get too into the weeds. I'm sorry.
Formalizing the zoning proposal. Who is going to say we need to set the AMI level to 40%, 60%? Who is
It's federal.
No,
It's federal.
it's through the planning process.
No, it's not.
And you will identify the priorities that you want to
Hazel, could
target.
you
Like
mute
I was
yourself
saying.
for a second? Excuse me. Hazel, can you mute your mic for a minute? There's some feedback coming.
No, I know what she's saying. She's saying that the AMIs are federal. However, we, the city, still can assess what level we want, right? Even though, let's say, 100% AMI is completely unaffordable for East Flatbush, because what that means is 120, you got to be making $120,000 a year to live in that apartment. We can still say what East Flatbush needs is 40% AMI, right? Which is more of a median income. Who is accountable to coming up with what figure works for East Flatbush? That's the answer.
Yeah, and if I could just add here, the MIH, mandatory inclusionary housing, has several options. At the end of the day, the city council will select which options make sense for this neighborhood. And there's options that are fairly low income, Starting out at roughly 45,000 a year. And then there's more middle income options that are affordable, but might not be affordable to this particular community. The city council actually has the ability to pick which options are mapped and which options are available for the new development that would come out of this plan.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry to get too into the weeds.
No problem. I'm not sure if these are repeat hands, but I see Hazel. Your hands are raised.
Yes, I have some concern because if you're focusing on the western side, most of it with the R6, R7 ones, that place is already overdeveloped, so and built as of right. So how would that work with your plan? Since there's little space for anything, any new development, like on Lennox Road, there's like one house left.
Daniel, do you want to take this one?
I can talk to it a little bit, but I think DCP should be for this. That obviously what's been done, and this is I wanted to mention this after the Q&A, but I'll say my piece here, right? There's no one on this call, right, from the community is a stranger to the fact that East Flatbush has been forgotten about, left behind by prior administrations, right? I don't want Paris to get too angry at me, so I gotta be a little measured, but it's no stranger to the fact that this, contextually zoning East Flatbush, there's been plenty of studies, plenty of walkthroughs. I've been with Allison Martinez out on Bedford Avenue many times before, right? We've done the work, and it's about time we get this done. There are many spots that we still can preserve. And the key component that the Councilmember Lewis feels, and we hope that Councilmember Joseph and their office feel the same way, is that the folks who are in the homes that are there now, they are just as much as risk of being bought out by a speculative investor, Blackstone or whomever, to turn that into whatever kind of building they want to look like. Every last remaining, and I agree with Adele Bennett's statement, we are stabbed in the back and the front, right? I would actually say they're stabbed to the left and the right, because you have literally on New York Avenue one family home sandwiched between two 6-story developments that are not affordable, that are going for $4,000 a month, right? So we need to preserve and protect all of the homeowners in our district as soon as possible. So that's why we still need to get this done. And that's why we're trying to push this forward, because any remaining building that is actually going to house a family, generational wealth, is something that we stand to lose if we do nothing.
Allison, is that a repeat? And or did you
No,
have a last
yeah.
round of questions? Okay.
I'm curious about whether or not there is an opportunity to bring back through this process community board preference for new developments, the set asides.
Alex, do you want to take that, or you want me to?
You go ahead. I'll back you. I'll follow up with you.
So I'm not an attorney, even though Daniel knighted me as such. I have attorneys I have a team of attorneys that work for me in this division, but I'm a planner. My understanding of the legal bounds here is that the city made a settlement, and that settlement was codified in court documents. I've seen the court documents. Those unfortunately cannot be changed unless we went back to the court. So as it relates to anything that is on the city's affordable housing lottery, that right now it's 20%, but it'll go down to 15% in several years. That 20 or 15% preference cannot be changed through any process except going back to the court.
even for community board set-asides that we see happening in other communities still.
That it's a citywide court decision. It affects all communities.
And I want to know if there are opportunities to then, I think through, like, if we could address some of like the environmental issues through some like special district building or something like that around some of the issues we are seeing in terms of flooding, extreme heat, and all of the other issues that are impacting the community. If there are opportunities to build programming at the very least, and maybe some support around what people are facing now,
Yeah,
some of which
Alex.
they never faced before.
Yeah, no,
All of
Alex
this
can
solar.
speak to that.
Did he say yeah? What did he say?
So
Or,
I miss.
The environmental kind of concerns and how the plan can address that either programmatically or through legal devices.
Yeah. So sorry, I was misheard. So yes, as I mentioned before, we are going through this engagement process not just to talk about zoning, but to understand what the other priorities are in the neighborhood. If there are areas that are identified that has, example, stormwater flooding at, these 3 or 4 intersections, this is an opportunity for the community to say, yes, we should address this, and we can work with DEP to understand what their capital program is for stormwater infrastructure. And going through the process, it helps us prioritize that, knowing that we're going through this kind of larger neighborhood plan. And so those are the types of things that can be prioritized on the front end. On the back end, we have to do that work. It's required in order to do a zoning change. We have to undertake an environmental review. That includes things like sewer infrastructure. And that goes through its own public review process. We call it public scoping. It provides opportunities for our environmental consultants to take a look at this work. And then we show the data and say, does this track with your kind of existing lived experience? And there's additional comments that can be put into that. So that's on the back end as well. So those are a two-pronged approach to infrastructure investments.
Can that also apply to community drives, which are technically private?
Like driveways?
No, like the shared community drives in between homes in the back, it's like 50 homes on a block, but that space, which is flooding, some of which is due to lack of sewer, the lack of the sewer infrastructure to support, but some of which we are seeing multiple areas where this is becoming a larger and larger impact with no real solution.
Got it. Yeah, no. So that's something we would absolutely take a look at and see if it's related to maintenance issues related to storm drains, if it's because of climate change and increased rain events. Like that's what would be taking a look at. What we would ask is the community identifies these areas for us to take a look at. We have our own data sources. As David mentioned, we go through and do our quantitative analysis. But the whole point is that we need to rely on local experts, you guys, to tell us what we're missing. And so that's the exact type of thing that we would encourage you guys to bring forward through the planning process.
Okay. Seeing no other questions, anybody have any closing remarks from your team? No? All good?
Well, what exactly is on the agenda for the launch next week if a lot of these things are up in the air or not decided? I'm assuming the teams are not formulated. So what exactly are you launching?
Good question.
I can take a first stab at this. Again, so we're still in the first step of this. We're really in the organized phase. So what we plan to really be doing is we're not launching anything yet in terms of draft of potential fixes, anything like that, because that in our view puts the cart before the horse. We really want to hear more from community members about things that we don't know about, you know, from people who live on the ground. And so really what we're launching is kind of table setting is, all right, why are we here? Kind of going over some of what we've gone over today of what the community's told us over the past couple of years, you know, what actions have taken, what actions maybe have not been taken, and how we can move forward, just so that everybody is kind of on the same page of the history of of what the community has advocated for, the history of actions being taken, and getting everyone in the same page of here's where we are right now, and here are some of the steps that are going to be going on in the future, and here's the different ways that you can get involved. We know that people have the opportunity to get involved and have the resources and, you know, availability to get involved in different ways, and we want to make sure everybody's aware of those opportunities and can help us learn as much as we can. So I'll leave it there for now.
Paris and/or Tim, is it possible to throw up? Is it possible to say on this call the exact boundaries of what you guys are trying to do?
Well, that's actually part of what is still to be decided, actually. So, you know, we certainly think we should focus on the west, just because of, you know, what the Department of City Planning was saying earlier. But in terms of what are the exact boundaries of the study area, what are the exact boundaries of a rezoning, that's going to all come out of this engagement process, where we really need to listen and have conversations with the community before making a decision on that. So it's very much to be informed by the process.
Valerie, there's some
Yes,
rebuttal
can
questions.
you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So I'm Mr. Daniel Heredia. I think he had made this very kind of a dramatic statement earlier that kind of caught my ear when he said that every private home, I guess that's in the area where they're pretty much overbuilt, is I'm assuming, to clarify for me, did he mean the entire East Flatbush or in the area that has already been overbuilt over on the western side of the district? When he had mentioned something about everyone is in jeopardy of being lost. Every house, every private home is in jeopardy of being lost. So that kind of caught my ear. So I'm wondering, did he mean that area or the entire community of CB 17, East Flatbush, whatever?
I'll answer that comment because I was the one who made it. Basically, I mean, I think many folks know, but all is basically the part that is the most affected by overdevelopment is west of Brooklyn Avenue,
right?
Because that zone is R6, which because of the crazy people in the 60s decided that certain neighborhoods should be built as towers and parks, tower and park. That gets to be built 6, 7, 8 stories, depending if you merge the lots together. So unlike the R4, which is most of the other part of our district, at least south of Church Avenue, that is much more limited. You could still build a little higher, but most developers don't, because the limit is so much more strict. So most of those homes will stay as 1 to 2 family homes.
Okay.
But west of Brooklyn Avenue, it's almost a free for all because of the zoning.
Okay, so you're just kind of repeating sort of what we already know. It's nothing. Exactly. No. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Oh, and one more thing. Sorry, one more thing. I know you were talking about the propensity for flooding that we're experiencing now in certain areas. I have an area here that's right next to my home that's become a flood zone. It became that during Ida, when the remnants of Hurricane Ida passed through. And about 2 weeks ago, we had another incident, and the water was pretty much, in my house. So, and in the 45, almost 50 years I've lived here, never had that. And so now I'm experiencing that. So do how do I just talk to the community board about adding my corner as a problem area, or that's all I need to do, right? Just get our corner on the list, basically.
Yeah, I can take that. So yeah, no, we've heard this across the whole city. With increased storm events, sewer capacity has been an increasing issue. So you're not alone. What we would do through this planning process is we would ask like the public to come to these events, community board members that come to these events. And when we hold these meetings to talk with city agencies, we talk about topics like infrastructure, like stormwater, like parking, like trees, like open space, parks. And so that's when we'll have some maps, and we ask that you come out and draw on them. You more than welcome to let the community board know. But I think we really want you and your neighbors to come out to these events to identify areas of interest. We'll hear a lot of stormwater, I'm sure, but we also want to hear from folks about things that are working in their neighborhood that they want to protect. Parks that they love. Where are you having issues with like school buses backing up? That's the type of thing. So it's like the whole gamut. So come with your ideas, your issues. If you have any solutions, we're open to them, and we'll bring all of our sister agencies out to that.
Okay, and the first meeting is, you said, next Thursday. Is that what I heard?
Yes.
Where is
Wait,
it?
okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Viglianti?
Yes. My question is, we've been through this. We've done these meetings so many times. We met with DCP. We've done walks. We've done all of the work already. Now it seems like we're starting over again. It's very frustrating, but are you using any of what we produced as part of your process? We have a map of how we wanted it to be rezoned. We put out a lot of information to you guys, to DCP.
Yes.
Are you using that, or are you just
100%.
starting from scratch?
No, we're very familiar with the work that the community board has put together with I believe it was WXY. We use those to identify priority areas. I will say a lot's changed since then. Not only things on the ground, but citywide zoning changes have happened. And so I think we need to reevaluate that proposal in the context of existing zoning. For example, changes to what was mentioned at the top of the meeting earlier, UAP, Universal Affordability Preference. We need to make sure that the zoning takes into account different regulations for narrow streets and wide streets. We need to make sure that, as we talked about MIH as a tool, we need to make sure that you guys identify corridors that are appropriate for MIH. And so, and finally, we never talked with the public at large, right? We had lots of intense conversations with the community board. But as we were mentioning before, like this is a larger planning process.
Well, we did talk to the public, excuse me, but we did talk to the public. We had meetings. DCP was at these meetings. I know it was a different administration, but we did have meetings with the public. We had workshops. We had maps that people could draw on, put little houses on. We did all of that. So we did do that. So.
Yeah, as I said we're using that as the starting point, but a lot of it on the ground has changed, and that's why we need to open this up to a larger discussion and make sure that we have the same baseline information across the board that we're working with as we develop recommendations.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just add, we have had more work done since WXY. We've had capstones. We've done we've had other reports with other consultants as well since then. So like we have a quite a large bastion of work. I built a not-for-profit built on doing this work in this area with these things. So as a result, and have continued to do projects with Columbia GSAP, Pratt, all of that around opportunities and ideas around development in this area. So I just want to just let you know the community never stopped. I also want to just ask regarding City of Yes and its basically allowing developers to no longer have to really provide parking with the new developments for like that's a huge need in our community. So would we be able to override, which is what is now law, regarding parking requirements, when we know in this community that was actually one of the reasons why the community board voted no against City of Yes?
As I said before, I think part of this is to really come up with a new toolkit of both programs, capital funding, and zoning. As I mentioned before, and we talked about during City of Yes, there are trade-offs associated with these regulations. And so I think we just need to be transparent as we go through the process and understand the trade-offs. At the end of the day, like parking is a higher priority than XYZ. You guys make that statement, but that's part of this process, is to go through and identify priorities and the trade-offs.
And where Valerie noted about flooding is in the R4 district. So most likely, I would assume that the community board would probably not want to gamble too much with having to make trade-offs in an R4, because that is presumably going to stay pretty much the way that it currently is. However, they would want to have like the infrastructure changes or support around other housing initiatives or programs that are available. Is it only the strict meets and bounds of whatever section of the community gets to be involved in those revamps?
No, not necessarily. The zoning district boundaries are kind of made up. As somebody said, people in the 60s come up with stuff that, we would try, and our analysis has to include a larger geography. Again, it's not going to be over like East 98th Street necessarily, but we would identify geographies that make sense based on what school districts, or we call them for the sewer sheds, right? Like where that all works. And so, no, it doesn't have to be a one-for-one boundary of zoning change, but it does have to be tied somehow back to what we're studying.
Okay. There's some questions. We'll close the questioning out at 9 o'clock. So, Mrs. Sorted, you're acknowledged.
Hello? Sure. Hi. Can you hear me?
We can.
Great. So I have a question. I'm just trying to understand this with the new referendums. You mentioned the appeals board. I think this was like ballot number 4, where there's an appeals board of the mayor, um, the speaker of the city council, and the borough president. Let's say that you come here, you come up with this whole, survey, and you see, what sort of affordable housing is going to happen. You mentioned the term MIH. My opinion of MIH is that you're talking about, much taller buildings with MIH. If the community says, listen, we see what you have, the community board says, we don't like it, and they vote against this, and you're in the ULURP process. Before, there was member deference, where let's say the local city council person, Rita Joseph, can say, listen, I spoke to my constituents, they hate the plan, they don't like it. They looked at it, and, in terms of the community preference, it's only going to be 15% of local residents in January 1st, 2029. So the community may not be excited about all this like gentrification and losing parking spaces for just only getting 15% of the units for the local community district. So if the community doesn't like it, does the new affordable housing referendum, question number 4, mean that if Rita Joseph says, I listened to the community board, I'm voting no, and the city council says, I'm voting no, can the new appeals board come in terms of creating new affordable housing incentives and say, listen, Mandami likes it. The speaker of the city council, if it's Menin, she doesn't like it, 1-1. But the borough president, Reynoso, likes it. can you guys overrule, can the appeals board overrule the community board? And what sort of rights does the local community board and the local city council person have to veto your plan? And are they getting involved in opening up a can of worms where once you open up a study, you're in for it? And there's no, with the new referendum, you get 2 out of the 3, they'll overrule it. And they're saying what the city planning commission said is, we're going for this and you have no say. What kind of veto process is there for the local community?
So I guess I'll frame it like this, and I have to get back to you on the technical like aspects of the referendum, the ballot measures, and how that would affect a neighborhood study. But I do want to say I would hope before we get to that point that there is some consensus through this planning process. Like I said at the top, this is not just a normal, like a developer coming in with a site saying, I want to rezone it to XYZ district, take it or leave it, and then you go through a ULURP process. We've been proposing tonight to do an engagement process that gets to a set of community priorities where we've identified trade-offs, the pros and cons of different aspects of it, and that there's some consensus before we enter into ULURP. And so I guess the point of that is that before we get into ULURP, there's some sort of baseline agreement with everybody that, you know what, this is close enough. We can hammer out the details during ULURP, but this is generally the right direction. That's what we're going to try and get to before ULURP. And so that's the goal of going through a process like this.
Right, but once you come up with this whole plan, city planning could say, okay, we did the study, now we're going to present it, now we're going through ULURP, and here's the process, because you already have the application open. Anyhow, you don't have to answer that. Thanks for your answer.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought I saw one more hand. Was there one more hand?
It was my hand, but I put it down because it's 9:01.
Okay. Is it quick?
It was just a matter of confirming that some of the concerns that we have can be addressed with a text amendment. I know there's the things that are in process already. I know the things that are set in stone, as it were, but with enough support and feedback, can this, because some of these things, for example, getting parking and addressing the infrastructure concerns, could that be addressed by text amendments?
Yeah, I think these kind of more detailed questions in terms of like what kind of aspects could be handled by what kind of interventions are probably better for subsequent conversations because they can get really detailed. So if you don't mind, either next week if you can come, or there'll be plenty of meetings going forward where we're going to delve deep into this stuff.
Thank you. I'm amenable. Thank you.
And I'll just add to that. I think the mechanisms at this point in time are less important than the goals and objectives that you guys want to see out of this. So we'll work on the mechanisms, text amendment, zoning, blah, blah, blah. But what we want to hear are the goals and objectives on how to achieve those first. I think that's really, really important at this stage.
Oh, when I go down. Okay, I'm in a meeting, but I go down.
Yeah. Been trying to meet that person for a while. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to the team at DCP, Daniel Heredia, everybody. The event is going to be next week, Thursday at PS 181 at 1023 New York Avenue, 7 to 8:30. I think I saw 7 to 8:30.
Yes, that's right. Yep.
If you have anything or any documentations, maybe even the slide deck that you shared tonight, that I could distribute to my committee members and maybe some of the residents so that they can have an idea of what the event's going to be about, that'd be great. And we'll be in communication. You guys have a good night. We'll be in contact.
Thank you.
You take attendance?
Thank you.
No, it's not time for that yet.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, we got to vote on the minutes, I believe.
So you're saying good night to our guests. We're still
to the guests.
members. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just to the guests. All right. We slid Any last statements based off of what happened before we move on to our regular order of business? Final statements? Anything? Anybody?
I really think that the community board should consider um, getting its own consultant. I don't know what the budget situation is or isn't, or the timing of that or any of that. But if you're going to embark on this, I do think the community board should have its own rep.
From a budgetary perspective, the timing probably couldn't have been any worse. But yeah, we'll have to bring that up. I'll bring that up to the executives and see. This is news to us, so we weren't really aware that this was happening. I only learned about this earlier this week, so we'll put that into consideration
How
and
can
see
that be
if we could
possible?
have any set asides. Didn't know. You want me? You know, I mean, I'm a straight shooter. I'm not gonna tell you like I knew about it. I didn't. But I know about it now, and we'll have to address it and just be aggressive and try to be as present and as involved in the process as possible. I know this is round 3 for us. I'm saying us, but really you guys. You guys have been at it longer than I was even involved. So round 3, the only thing that's semi in our favor now is that we're starting the process prior to an administrative change. We're hoping that the guy in the chair will be more accepting to allow something like this to pass by, but it sucks, unfortunately, but we're gonna have to probably go through it. We have all of the tools and the data from past things to hopefully speed up some of this process. Because what I really wanted to review was the timelines that they spoke about that were in between. I was trying to take some screenshots just to see ultimately what the overall process and timeline would have been. I actually have it. It's 2, then 6 months. So that's like a year, 14 months, 24 months, 31 months, according to this planning process to get it done. We would want to try to make that sooner rather than later because 31 months is a longer period minus anything going on. Chances are you roll into another person being in the chair and us starting this all over again. So um, hopefully we'll get the slide deck. We'll be able to review and see how we move on. But yeah, next week.
And the other thing, Daniel, I really think that the selection criteria for the steering committee, especially if it's going to be completely held by the electeds, needs to be made public for everyone to see.
Feedback well noted, Allison. I think we can prepare our end ahead of next meeting and just comment on the timeline. I'll get in trouble for saying this, but that's okay. You know, I definitely want to thank Kwame for his role in, you know, obviously chairing one of the most important committees on this board. Those conversations were notified, and I think we also have to hold our land use staff accountable. They told Daly this about a month ago. It's frustrating that you're not told. I think we all need to sort of, you know, I'm also here as sort of representing my boss, but also trying to move this along because we can't wait any longer to protect homes in CB17. So ahead of next week's meeting, we'll be looking to make sure that we disseminate with you all and with especially the homeowners directly in the western part of CB17, basically what we're looking for. We don't, there's no picks. We just want homeowners who live in the area that's affected. That's the criteria, but we'll make sure that we communicate that in a transparent manner.
And then just finally, is there a map? Have you seen a map that illustrates the area that they're concentrating on? Is borders? Is there something developed? There's obviously a target zone. Is there any information in the slide deck or anywhere else that could show what the impact area is? Or is it an area that we've picked in the past? Is it an area that's being selected for us? Like, what can we do to get that information out? That's probably the more critical information than anything. There's knowing where they're trying to preserve.
Yeah, I'm a little bit frustrated by DCP. I mean, who is not at this point, but we know the commitment that was made by Mayor Adams was specifically for the western part of CB17. That is R6. So let me try to do this in a way that's not exploded. Am I able to do this? Tab. So, you know, this area really is an utmost concern for us because
Are you sharing something, Danny?
Are you sharing? Oh, I see it.
Okay.
this is what I said.
You're breaking up, Danny. Probably on a mobile. Yeah, we can see it. You're a little bit choppy, but we can see the
Is
proposal.
it
Yeah.
possible for him to just share it with us? Because I
Yeah,
can't
he's
hear a
showing
word
us on
he's
the map.
saying.
Showing us on the map. He's trying to illustrate where it's going to be.
Okay, yeah, sorry. Hopefully it should be fine now. But yeah, basically, what west of Brooklyn Avenue and east of Bedford Avenue is the R6 portion of the district. This is the place that at least we are looking at, meaning the elected officials, because this is what is most affected. I think DCP has an interest of keeping it very nebulous because they don't want to commit to anything. The goal and the commitment is a down zoning, or at least a contextual zoning of what we got, right? We want to see building restricted, point blank, period. That's what we want, right? Now, throughout the plan, we're going to be asked to negotiate. Let's say, hey, the IBX, they're probably going to want to see more units down by the junction. We're already seeing applications go in for some of those buildings. They're probably going to want to see more development along the 2 and the 5. That's going to come of this. And we have to basically say, well, this is what's most in fact impacted and this is what we want. But this is at least what we came into this expecting to do, this sliver of R6, because that's the highest priority at this time.
It still would need to, I guess it can expand obviously from this, but Utica and Farragut, that is where you're going to have like an explosion of development once that train line comes like up and down that the entirety of Utica there.
Yeah,
you have to have some controls over that. Not to mention, you have an industrial plan that's going to be finalized pretty soon as well. That also impacts that area. So the city's industrial plan that's supposed to be finalized by the end of the month or thereabouts. All of that will be at play. So that would need to be in that area in this proposed scope of work.
Absolutely. I think, again, and this is, I'm here to collect feedback, so say exactly what you need to say. We have an interest because in the R6 area, because that was a commitment that we said, if you're going to do this City of Yes thing, and my boss voted no for whatever it's worth, right? But if you're going to do this thing, we need to address an issue that everybody in CB17 can agree with, that this part of the board has been overdeveloped. Now, the IBX area is another area of great concern. The one thing it has is the IBZ, and you're absolutely right, Allison. DCP is trying to change the way they call an IBZ into the primary industrial area and secondary. We actually just had a call with the same lawyers about making sure that we get to keep the protections that the IBZ has to ensure that they're not putting up towers there, that they still have to be restricted for only manufacturing uses. But we will see. I don't think DCP is ready for that because they don't, although they say the IBZ is going to matter, that rezoning is going to come closer to 10 years from now. That's what we've been told by the governor's office because the state is going to want to rezone. So we are told right now by the state, by the governor's office, that They want the IBX related zoning to happen at a later time. But again, we still want to keep the industrial area preserved. We don't want to see towers go up on Utica Avenue, especially if they're not affordable, especially if they're as of right. And right now,
I'm
we're
sorry,
going to fight to keep that in.
Daniel. So how does this pertain? How does this coincide with the conversation that we had with the borough president, wherein there was talk of the IBX and impact? So is he clear that the of the conversation that you've been having with the governor, as it pertains to the pause from his directives?
He's well aware of that. I mean,
Okay.
Reynoso knows that that this is not an immediate thing. And just to recap for others, we've heard from the borough president that he wants to put in some capital dollars for various community space, and he came to East Flatbush to do a roundtable on what some of the capital funding would look like. And remember, capital is things we can touch, not things we can talk to. Meaning like parks, roads. Capital budgets are on a very long track. So even if Reynoso said January 1st, I'm giving $5 million for a new building, that building's not getting built till 2030, right? So that again, even though he can commit funds now, we still wouldn't be talking about zoning until after the MTA finishes their plans for the IBX, which is not going to be due for another 2 years from now. I hope that is helpful.
Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, just taking the names. Make sure we had enough to move forward. I was just saying, closing. We are gonna have to probably review the community facilities and the other impacts that's gonna happen. Really, just period with everything that's been going on. We probably need to just get in contact with both sanitation and the transportation areas just to see how all of this additional housing is being addressed from a municipal standpoint. Obviously, no, our infrastructure is underperforming via the weather, but being that more buildings are coming, and we also should probably do some forward studies for that actual train stop to see how the city of Yes is going to impact it and how far the development access zone could actually trigger up Utica Avenue. You know that the state funded projects on Utica Avenue have only been able to do so because they had to avoid the YRLA process because of all of the industrial zoning that's there now. But we should probably try to invest in something ourselves just to see, just to forward think, just to see how that corridor is going to be impacted. And we'll close the subject on that. It's going to be an ongoing thing. I'll try to make it my best efforts to get there next week to see what this looks like and see if it develops further from today. I'll share any documentation that comes to the office pertaining to the subject. And yeah. Uh-huh. All right. Thank you, Danny. Just be in contact and keep me in the loop if you hear anything pertaining to this or anything else or any other developments. There was some stuff pertaining to some properties that we've been just getting bombarded with, but I'm pretty sure that come January 1st, we'll be getting a lot of applications with people trying to pursue whatever they plan on pursuing, especially if there's a tax variance around that somebody could utilize. All right. So thank you. We'll be in contact and I'll let you know. Now, as far as our business, the minutes. I believe we have to deal with the minutes. So the approval of the November minutes, I believe it was distributed to everybody via email for 2025. November's minutes. Could somebody make a motion to approve the minutes for November? Anybody?
Hazel Martinez, I make a motion that we accept it says submitted.
Very good. Do we have a second?
I second Marguerite.
Thank you. Any amendments or changes or any conversation pertaining to the minutes? Hearing none.
No.
All in favor of voting to approve the minutes for November 2025, please say aye.
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 All right. All opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions?
Joan Alexander Bachardine abstains. I was not present. Thank you.
Very good. One abstention. All right, the motion passes. And the minutes have been approved. Sliding down the agenda, any unfinished business?
Hazel Martinez, yes. Since the new term began, we have not heard anything, any follow-up on Di Costali or the Con Ed substation.
Yeah, I haven't gotten any impact or any input back. I did send an email out to the project manager for the Con Edison project. I haven't gotten back feedback of where that is at this time. I'll follow up and send it again. And Di Costali, I have to see where they are in their process. I didn't actually look to see where they are in the application process. I have to follow up with that. I didn't get any correspondence from their office though, but I will. Any other unfinished business? There are none. Any new business? Okay. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Alexander Bachardine moves at 9:22 p.m. to adjourn the meeting.
Have a second?
Teresa
I
Brereton,
second.
second.
Oh, go ahead.
All right. Taking some notes. Motion's been moved and properly seconded. Meeting has been adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Feel free to contact me or remind me
Good night.
to follow up on anything. Have a good night
Good
and take
night.
care.
Be well,
Good
everyone.
night, everyone.
Good night. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, all.
Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night.
Oof.
Hi, Kwame. Would you like me to just end the meeting for everybody?
You can.
Okay, great.
Thank you.